Good morning, everyone. Today, I'd like to take you on a journey so that you can deliver the best possible experience in everything you do. Did you know that 70,000 years ago, our species, Homo sapiens, started doing amazing things? Instead of swimming, they started building boats. Instead of wearing fig leaves, they started stitching their clothes together. Instead of torches, they made oil lamps. Instead of wrestling saber-toothed tigers, they figured out a way to defend themselves from a distance. Prior to this, progress was pretty slow. And that's because sapiens could only really talk about things that were real and tangible, like food, like animals, trees, sex, danger. For them, the future didn't really exist. But then something happened. Scientists believe a genetic mutation opened up a portal in sapiens' imagination. The cognitive revolution had begun, and Neanderthals, compared to sapiens, were left completely behind. Sapiens had acquired superpowers, and the world has not been the same since. In other words, 70,000 years ago, our species started thinking, what if? Instead of, what the fuck? So, making things up not only saved our species from extinction, it also opened up the floodgates to a new world of makers. So let's fast forward to today. Look around you. Everything around you was made up by someone. It was imagined, it was designed, engineered, and manufactured. And it all started with just a single idea. Not an idea you can see or touch. Think about that. Literally nothing can turn into something. The invisible becomes the visible. We all have this ability. We are all makers. And the result of all this making is some kind of product. A product literally means something produced. And product can be the chairs you're sitting in, the lights blinding me right now, the stage, the conference itself. Pretty much anything you can think of, someone had to imagine it, and someone had to create it. Makes you think, though, why do products exist? Let's go back 70,000 years ago to that time where sapiens made stuff to survive. They literally made those things so they could live another day. But the story did not end there. We weren't just going to create products to survive. Think about the phone in your pocket for a second. Why does that exist? Think about anything you own. Why does that exist? Products exist for one reason, and that is to help us make progress in our lives. Here's what I mean. You might have seen this before. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. All human needs are represented in this pyramid. Starting with your basic needs for survival, your social needs for emotional well-being, and your self-fulfillment needs so that you can realize your full potential. Products and services help us fulfill those needs. And they exist to firstly help us be more of who we are, so going up the pyramid, but also help us experience more, going across the pyramid. So, for example, you and I will always need food to survive, but we all like to go and visit our favorite restaurant. Do we need to do this? No, but doing so delivers a more powerful experience and ultimately makes us feel more human. In the end, we all just want to feel more alive, and it's products and services that can help us get the most from the human experience. Now, I want you to imagine UX as a spectrum. On one side, you have SX, shitty experience. On the other side, you have HX, human experience. Where do you think your product or service sits on that scale? If your product makes someone feel less of who they are, less empowered, more frustrated, then you have a more SX product. On the other hand, if your product or service helps someone make progress, helps them be more of who they are, more empowered, more in control, and importantly, delights them in the process, then you have a more HX product. Remember the goal, to help people make progress in their lives. So if we unpack this a little bit further, imagine your product rated on a utility scale. From low to high, is it useful? How useful? Every product also has an emotional scale, from apathy to love. And if it's love, at some point, this feeling will start fading into the background, even if the utility doesn't. So smartphones are a good example. They're incredible devices, but they reach a point where they become invisible in our lives because we use them so often. A product invisibility means it's found a place in your life. It helps more than it hinders, because in the end, products should help people feel more human. That's HX, the ultimate user experience. And even though it's a monumental task, I believe it's something that all makers can and should aspire to. So how do we get there? Well, we're going to need some tools. And the good news is, you already have access to some of them. Empathy. Put yourself in the shoes of the user. What that means is, literally, make their reality your own reality. Curiosity. Assume you know nothing. Ask a million questions. Doesn't matter how trivial it is, it's important to get to the bottom of things. Experiment and be courageous in trying risky things. Give a damn. Obsessively care about helping the user make progress. So, if empathy gets you closer, curiosity always explores what's possible. And giving him a damn ties it all together nicely. 4 years ago, I co-founded a company called Typeform. You may have heard of it, you may have not heard of it, but our vision is to make things a little more human. HX underpins everything we do at Typeform, so it doesn't matter what that thing is. It can be an interface, a process, or the spaces we work in. Making things a little more human is our guiding philosophy. Take a look at this. This is your typical web form. You come across these every day. More than often, you grudgingly fill them in because you have to. The problem with this is that it does not really reflect the way humans ask and answer questions. Let me ask you this. Would you come up to a bar and say, name, number, and expect a response? No, you obviously wouldn't. You'd have a conversation, and more importantly, you would ask one thing at a time. It's just good manners. And so, unknowingly at the time, we used these HX tools to humanize web forms. Empathy drove us to appreciate that humans really don't like to fill in laundry lists of questions. When we were curious enough to experiment with something different that challenged an established method. And we were obsessive about bringing the questioner and the respondent closer together. And we call this conversational data collection. And we didn't just stop at product. We also wanted to create a more human company too. And so we're constantly seeking ways to champion HX into the workplace and into the culture. Here are a few examples that I'd like to leave you with today. At Typeform, we don't have a typical reception. Instead, we have something we cheekily called a barception. Every day, employees start and end their day with a conversation. And we didn't hire receptionists to staff this. Instead, we hired 2 Italian blokes with absolutely no experience in admin work. They were just awesome guys and really good barmen. And actually, it's been so successful that people often walk in from the street mistakenly thinking it's a real bar. And then inside the office, we've also added over 600 plants. Why? Well, plants make humans feel good. And so we figured it would be a good idea to have them around. And we didn't just choose any plants. We were inspired by a TED talk by this guy, Dr. Kamal Mittal. He explains in his TED talk how he fell ill whilst working in New Delhi in India. And he did some research and he discovered that there were 3 common house plants that can grow fresh air indoors to keep us healthy. And we thought, what a great message to send to our employees and to give people a healthy environment to work in. Anyway, Italian barceptionists and plants spreading fresh air is all good, and it can be a great symbol for amplifying the human experience in your company. But above all, HX in the workplace will only be as good as the people you hire. And just like most forward-thinking companies, we hire people for their skill and passion, but we also make sure we always hire people for their humility. Because with humility, there is always much more room for progress. So, to wrap up, remember, everything's made up. And everyone in this room is going to be part of the future that we will all imagine. So let's be driven by the desire to create the best possible experience, and not the financial outcome. And we're going to do that by helping customers and our employees be more of who they are, not less. So, practice empathy, be curious, and really, really give a shit. Design everything with those 3 things in mind. I want to leave you with a quote from legendary designer Paul Rand, who famously said that people are conditioned to prefer bad design. How about we change that by striving to make things a little more human? Let's try to build more HX companies and more HX products. We may not get there in our lifetime, but at least we sure would have died trying. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.